In Chapter 9, Mishnah 8, the Mishnah discusses the law where various other irregularities happened in the Meiser count. If a person was beginning his Meiser count and two animals went out of the pen together and he counted them as one, then he continues to count them as they come out in pairs. That is, in order not to change the nature of his count, which he began as counting pairs rather than individual animals, he continues to count in pairs. He counts the next two animals that come out as the second pair, and the next two as the third pair, and so on until the ninth pair. And then he designates the 10th pair, which are really animals 19 and 20, as Meiser. But if he counted the first two of them, which came out together, as one animal rather than as a pair, and then he counted the third animal to come out as second, the fourth animal as third, and so on, the ninth and 10th animals of his count are ruined. That is, they may not be brought as korbanos, but must be left to grace and develop a blemish, and only then may they be eaten. Since the owner counted the two first animals that came out together as one, his count is short by one. The animal he counts as ninth is really the 10th animal to come out, and the one he counts as 10th is really the 11th to come out. Therefore, the law is that both these animals have a certain Meiser sanctity, but they are invalid to be offered as korban. Therefore, he leaves them to grace until they develop a blemish, and he may slaughter and eat them. Another case of an irregularity in the Meiser procedure. If, after the owner counted the first 8 animals one by one as they came out of the pen, the 9th and 10th animals came out of the pen together, then both the 9th and the 10th animals which came out together are ruined and may not be offered as a korban. One of them is the 10th and automatically sacred as Meiser, but we do not know which one. Therefore, we must let both of them graze until they develop blemishes, and only then slaughter and eat them as ordinary meat. Another case of irregular counting, which is the subject of a special law that can be derived from the verse. If, after the owner counted the first 8 animals one by one as they came out of the pen, he made a mistake and called the 9th animal to come out the 10th, and then he called the 10th animal to come out the 9th, and the 11th animal to come, he called the 10th, all 3 animals are sanctified. The 9th animal is sacred because the person called it the 10th. The 10th animal is sacred because it actually was the 10th. And the 11th animal is sacred because the person called it the 10th. However, each of the 3 animals has a different type of sanctity. The 9th animal, which he called the 10th, is slaughtered and eaten when it has a blemish. That is, it has only partial sanctity of Meiser. So it may not be offered as a korban, but must be left to graze until it develops a blemish. And the 10th animal is sanctified as regular Meiser and is offered on the Mizbeach, since it is the actual 10th animal to come out of the pen. And the 11th animal, which he called the 10th, also has full sanctity, but is offered as a shlamim offering, not as a Meiser. The Mishnah just ruled that the 11th animal in the last case is like a shlamim. The Mishnah now discusses a question about this shlamim sanctity. And the 11th animal makes its replacement into Tamura. That is, if the person designated another animal as replacement for this 11th animal with shlamim sanctity, the replacement animal too becomes sanctified. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Another Tana disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda said, but is there any Tamura that makes another Tamura? No! Even you, Rabbi Meir, agree that a Tamura animal cannot make another animal into Tamura. In the case of our Mishnah, where the 11th animal is considered a shlamim, it is not considered like an original korban, which can make a tamura, but only like the tamura of a korban, which cannot make another animal tamura. Rabbi Meir's response. They said in the name of Rabbi Meir, if the 11th animal is a kind of tamura, as you say, it would not be offered on the Mizbeach, because the law is that the tamura of a Meiser animal is not offered on the Mizbeach. Since the Mishnah ruled that the 11th animal is offered as a shlamim, we must say that it is not a kind of tamura, but rather an original shlamim, which can make another animal tamura. The Mishnah concludes with a variation of the last case that changes the law of the 11th animal. If he called the 9th animal to come out of the pen the 10th, and then he also called the 10th animal to come out the 10th, and then he also called the 11th animal to come out the 10th, that is, he called each of the 3 the 10th, the 11th animal is not sanctified at all, because of the rule that follows. This is the general rule. Whenever the name 10th was not taken away from it, i.e., whenever the name 10th is already applied to the animal that is actually the 10th, the 11th animal is not sanctified at all. The name 10th has the power to sanctify a different animal only as long as the name has not yet been applied to the animal that is actually the 10th. But once the name 10th has been applied to the animal that is really 10th, that name no longer has the power to sanctify another animal. In this last case of the Mishnah, the 10th animal was already called 10th. Therefore, the name 10th has lost its power, and calling the 11th animal 10th does not make it sacred in any way.